Hey, folks, you're listening to the Wrecking Crew Comedy Podcast with Vito D'Amico and
Mark Arts.
And today we have a special guest. He is the man of the hour, the man with the power.
Really?
Too sweet to be sour.
Seriously.
He is the reflection.
We're doing this again.
Mark, for fuck's sakes,
Really?
I've been working on this.
I know you've been working on it, but Jesus Christ, you're embarrassing the man.
No, I'm not. This is great. I wish
it's
people...
all right. I've already had enough smoke blown up my ass.
Well, I'm still doing it, goddammit, because
No.
I always picture myself naked on a horse when I do this.
Wow.
Ready?
No.
He is the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. He is the reflection of perfection, the number one selection.
I wish you hadn't mentioned the horse.
He is the woman's pet and the man's regret.
Oh, my God.
What you see is what you get.
Seriously.
And what you don't see is better yet. He is the Ayatollah of rock and roller, the one and only, the God Killer, AronRa.
All right. Well, it was well done, if not embarrassing.
No, he liked it. I would love that, wouldn't you?
No.
Well, that's where we differ. Folks, we're talking to AronRa. Thank you so much, sir. I know you just did what? How many countries?
No, we just did, from my perspective, it would be 15 countries in 6 weeks.
Holy shit.
Fuck, I've never been to
After that big, long introduction, I should mention AronRa is the Texas State Director of American Atheists.
that too.
He's a blogger, a vlogger, a speaker, and an all-around smart cookie. And we're really happy to have him here.
Yes, very happy. We're thrilled because time is of the essence, and he is always working, always doing stuff. The opposite what I do.
Yeah.
And that has got to be, is that exhausting for you? Like, you seem like you crave that.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of enjoying it. I mean, I was worried about coming home because I've only got 2 weeks before the next tour. I'm supposed to go to Canada. We're going to be in Regina on the 30th, and then I'm taking a Cessna to Edmonton and Calgary, and then going to Vancouver, and then we're flying down to Los Angeles, and I think I'm going to be doing something different there. That there's some other people that are scheduling that, so I'm not sure what they were going to have me do. But in the interim, I have a quite a large workload. You know, there are interviews that need to be done on the podcast. There's other type of video series that we're working on, and I've got to do another fresh presentation for this next group. It hasn't been written yet, not the first word of it. So I have to piece all of that together and be ready to go on top of everything else that I got to do in the next 2 weeks.
Well, I'm not going to ask you any questions about what your favorite TV show is then, because
I lost that when he said Regina. He said Regina because I've taken.
No, I know you almost immediately.
Yeah, for a second I was going, yes, I've been there, but
that was weird.
Regina. Say that angrily a couple times yourself. I'm going to Regina.
A Cessna. Why a Cessna?
Well, fuck.
Well, because a friend of mine up there happens to have one.
Oh, cool.
And people were talking about how we're going to book these flights and everything, and I've already booked like 40 flights this year.
Oh, God.
And this one was a little different. This guy that I know in Edmonton just happens to have a Cessna, and he says it'll be a lot faster that way than driving, which was the original plan, because people said that flying inside of Canada is more expensive than flying internationally, whatever. Maybe that was true last year, I don't know. But anyway, this guy's going to pick me up and give us a ride, and it's going to be I haven't used a Cessna for commuting since I was a little boy.
Yes, and there's a reason for that. Have you, please look at the plane. If one wing looks bigger than the other,
that's a sure sign.
Yeah, just make sure that, just ask him how old the plane is, and if he needs a crank to get this thing going.
Yeah, right.
If he's like, Aaron, give me a second here. We got to get a boost.
Does it have two wings?
Let me get the tractor to get the boost going here.
Yeah.
When you say does it have two wings, do you mean one wing on each side or two layers of wings?
Two layers, biplane.
Yeah.
Red Baron style.
Yeah, he's got the old Baron going. And just if he's got, if his passenger is always his 18-year-old dog, then stay away. Just say, I'd rather walk.
It is a cool way to see things.
I don't
because-
want to hear the fucking news and go, today on CBC,
Yeah.
we lost 15 canoes, and we believe there was a Sasquatch we lost too that turned that turned out to be AronRa,
Yet to
ladies
be
and gentlemen.
identified.
Yes, I love that story of how, and that's what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, was the paranormal. People, you give that great story where people thought you were a frickin' Sasquatch. Bigfoot.
Yeah.
How did that come about? And I know everybody knows it, but please, again.
I was hitchhiking in the mountains of northern New Mexico, and I was on my way to a town in eastern Arizona, and it was in May, so I didn't bring a heavy jacket or anything because I was coming from El Paso, and El Paso's hot, but I knew that the mountains would be cold, so I brought a sweater. When you get up in the alpine forest, okay, and now it's after dark, and now it's cold, so I put on a sweater, and then I was walking down this winding highway, which is a very tiny little highway, a little winding road through the forest. Very few cars ever come by, and I realized that I was being this is a summary story. This is the shortened version of it, but I realized that I was being followed and for quite a long time circled by coyotes.
Yeah, I love it.
And I'd never heard of coyotes taking down an adult person before, but it looked like these guys were going to try for that record, and so I roared at them to try to drive them away. I could see one crossing the road going to the left, and then behind me there's another one crossing the road going to the right, and I can hear them on both sides, kicking up the gravel and everything. And so I started roaring at them to back them off, and then I remember hearing a car coming. And I wanted to catch a ride, and it's pitch black.
The story gets better. I love it.
I mean, this car comes around the corner, and I step out in the road, waving my arms, and again, roaring as loud as I can, just to make sure I get a ride out of these people, right? And of course, they swerve around me. Eventually, I did this 2 or 3 times, and eventually somebody picked me up and took me on where I needed to go. And I came back a couple days later. And I'm hitchhiking through town again, and obviously this is several years ago, but I'm hitchhiking through town again, and it was during the day this time, and somebody says, you got to be careful when you're out in these woods, because a couple days ago we had Bigfoot out there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it was in the news and everything. It was in the newspaper because all these ranchers and people saw it, and then it wasn't hard to guess what they were actually seeing.
Yeah, and no matter what you tell people, there's still people out there. Like that was the day that you realized that Bigfoot, you gave up on it. You just said Bigfoot's bullshit.
What a great example.
But did you ever? I mean, I grew up really wanting to know. Are there such thing as monsters, ghosts, Bigfoot? How was that growing up? Did you ever when growing up? Did you believe in ghosts? And what was like? I know you tried to do some research, and I did the same thing where you would look. I remember grabbing a book on the Loch-Ness monster, and there was never any hardcore evidence. It was always just some guy saying he saw it. Here's a shitty picture. It could be anything.
Well, to give you an idea of how far entrenched I was in this, it was the 1970s, and these unexplained phenomenon things were all the rage at that time. And there was a guy named Tim Dinsdale who was the chief investigator of the Loch Ness monster phenomena. He had actually bought a submarine.
Yes, that's right.
Nice.
And so what I had was not just somebody saying he saw it. What I had was this was distributed through my school in middle school in Southern California. They were showing these pictures that this submarine had taken of this diamond-shaped fin.
Yes, I have the exact picture. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I mean, we've got this hard evidence now, right? And the problem that I had was that we have authorities saying, here's the hard evidence, here's the photographic evidence, here's Kirlian photography, for example. You asked about ghosts, right?
Correct.
We had, at that time, all kinds of, not just cryptozoologists, we also had parapsychologists, and they were using different kinds of electronic means of detecting ectoplasm and
Yes.
other such things as that. Kirlian Photography was the one that really duped me because I was a 12-year-old boy and I was watching a show called In Search Of that was hosted by Leonard Nimoy.
Right.
Yes, I remember.
That's
Yes.
huge.
And I'm watching what I think is a science documentary hosted by somebody who always sounds logical.
Spock would not.
Yes,
lie to you.
exact. Somebody that when Spock said it, you believed it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they show this thing where what they have is these photoelectric plates, and they put a leaf between these plates. And then when you take a picture between these photoelectric plates, what you get is not a typical photo image. Instead, what you get is tiny phosphorescent blue sparks as electrical impulses, and they show the pattern of a leaf and all of the veins and everything in the leaf. You can see all of the interior contours of the leaf. And then when they take this leaf off the plate, and then they cut it in half, and they go to take a picture again. Now, at first, what you see is the half of the leaf that you would expect to see, but on an overexposure, it would show you the whole leaf.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Now, I think, remember, I'm a 12-year-old boy. I've been taught all my life to believe whatever I see on TV, especially if it's on a science documentary or the news, both of which I've come to find are highly suspect, especially in the United States. But I was a little boy at that time, and I was not taught to think critically or skeptically
True.
or analytically. I was told to believe, and I was told that skeptics, and you had to say skeptics with the same kind of sneer that you would say the word socialist.
Yeah.
Or atheist.
Yeah.
I remember it was the same thing. It was a
Well,
bad word.
Skeptics had to be treated with disdain because they were somehow missing out
Yes.
on the big picture. They couldn't see the awe and wonder because the believers could. So you have to be gullible in order to get the great benefit of whatever the hell, right? So
Right.
I was taught to believe everything blindly, gullibly. So you remember when the movie Ghostbusters came out and Janine is giving an interview to Winston Zedmore. She says, "Do you believe in spirit photography, astral projections, full
Yes.
trance mediums, the Loch Ness Monster, the theory of Atlantis, all that crap?"
Yeah.
I believed all of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I did
Because
too.
I was in a culture that trained me to believe in all of that, and then reinforced that with pseudoscience documentaries where they're showing me the extraterrestrial reptiles from the Sirius star system that are infiltrating our government and all of this. I'm told that our American military have the Blue Book Project, right? And so we
Yeah.
have all of these government agencies that are actually testing remote viewing and telepathy for military application. This is what I was taught the whole time I was growing up.
Yeah, but wasn't it like at a time it was kind of a wonderful being a kid and thinking, the Loch Ness, Bigfoot, UFOs, they're out there. When I get older, I'm gonna go look for them.
And when you get an adult or a person of authority giving you, half-assed compelling quote-unquote evidence, then that just makes you happy.
When Spock said that, this shit, the way Spock, the way Leonard Nimoy speaks,
yeah,
you just think it's, God.
I believe
You're as a child, you think he is telling you, hey, it's out there. We don't know everything, but the mystery is still there. There is something out there.
That's a lot more fun in a lot of cases.
Yes, it makes you feel like an Indiana Jones as a kid. You sit there and go, I gotta go and look up this stuff. And I remember grabbing from the library a book on the Loch Ness Monster and just reading, back to cover the picture that you just described. I remember that going, holy shit, we got evidence of this.
Yep.
We've got evidence of this plesiosaur.
It's in a book.
Yes, it's in there, and oh God, look at this. It goes on, and you're just caught up as a child. We all love a good ghost story. We all want to know, hey, is there as you get older, you realize, how the fuck can you not find a 9-foot monkey walking around in the woods? But
Whole families of them.
yeah, families of them. And no one's ever found if they do find a shit, they just sit there and go, that's a squatch.
It's a squatch
Somebody
droppings.
Yeah, that's we do find bear. Where they say, a bear or something dies in the woods. Yes, I found a carcass of a deer once, but it's very rare because, of course, the woods will take it. The woods take everything apart. But we do find skeletons of bear carcass.
Sure.
So to not find a Sasquatch. Then there was always that, hey, they bury their own. There was
Why haven't we found a buried one?
Yes,
Yeah.
but
Right.
they have their own grave. Like it's like a grave, like it's like a sacred place that they hide that
Well,
nobody can
elephants have
find.
an elephant burial ground
Yes, they
too,
do.
but we still find dead elephants everywhere.
Yes,
Sure.
we do. Yeah, and that's where if you ever watch, I really enjoy. I try not to because it gets me a little angry when you watch. I watch Discovering Bigfoot. What's that show? The Bigfoot show,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
where they go out and they have like 6 guys and a girl, and they'll go,
You're
oh,
talking about Monster Hunt or there's something like that, Monster
yes,
Squad or
yeah. Well, I enjoy. There's a show called Monster Quest, which
That's
is
it, that's
which I enjoy because they try and figure out if there is a haunting or any. They try and figure out how the person could have seen this. Like
Yeah, they try to figure out how that could be true.
Yes.
How they could have seen it. And they ask the question, can you prove this didn't happen?
yeah,
Right.
they'll have
They're looking at it completely the wrong way. Let's understand what really happened
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And
Right.
maybe there's a chance that somebody did really find a giant spider somewhere. Okay, let's entertain the possibility, but let's be realistic about it.
Yes, and that's what I like about that show. They'll have, they had one guy that said he taped a spaceship, and he had video footage of this, and there was a spaceship, and it killed his dog or something. And one of the guys on the show, I believe, worked for the FBI, so he knew how to interrogate a person. And they would tape and videotape the response of the person, and you could totally, like, the guy was saying, well, this is my belief, this is what I saw. And when he was saying stuff like that, what was happening was he was making it that it's not like me saying, Aaron, it's what you saw, it's what I saw. So I could totally lie to myself. It's what I saw, not what you saw.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the George Costanza, it's not a lie unless you believe it's a lie kind of thing. So you keep telling yourself that this is what I saw, even though the footage was bullshit and you could tell that it was the guy made it. He was forcing himself to believe this bullshit story that he created, and his lies were picked up during the interrogation, where a person that was telling the truth would not respond the way he was.
Yeah, so somebody who's inclined to believe that kind of stuff
Yeah,
is what they're automatically going to see.
Yeah. So it was fantastic to see that, and I love when they, that's the type of shows that I enjoy, when they just don't have, I saw a Bigfoot. What's over there? It's a Bigfoot.
Yeah,
that could be Bigfoot.
Yeah, what's that? That's a Bigfoot. It's just, to me, I want more than just a guy.
Well, you mentioned, that it's not a lie, right? Unless you believe that it's a lie and so forth. And how would people respond if they were saying the truth? Well, let's look at the words lie and truth. Truth in particular. Because when I believed all of this stuff, and I didn't do religious studies, I wasn't relying on scripture and all of this. I wanted to do a more direct experiment. I wanted to do personal revelation. I wanted to do meditation and
Right.
experience psychic phenomena like astral projection and things like this. And everybody's encouraging me to do this. I mean, it's the culture that I grew up in, right? Everybody believes in astral projection. Everybody believes that everyone has a soul and that there are ghosts. I mean, it was impossible to find anybody in my entire background that didn't believe these things. They were
Right,
universally accepted, and everybody had their own different forms of evidence that they could point to for that. So when I start doing the experiments in the psychic phenomenon and neo-pagan occultism and everything, and I realized very long into it, I eventually realized that it's all forced perceptions.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are, for example, when you're reading auras or what have you, when you're seeing spectral manifestations, you're training yourself to see just beyond what your eyes can see. Well, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? What you're doing is you're listening for things and creating sounds in your own head, and you're creating images in your own eyes, and you're just forcing yourself to believe that. You're convincing yourself that those things are real. And the thing is, when you practice this kind of stuff and you become susceptible to this mind game, and neo-pagan occultism is no different than faith healing and some forms of extreme Christianity and such. It really isn't any different. You think that you've tapped into something,
Yes.
that you now have this this greater perception, this revelation, or better, what is it? This enlightenment.
Yes,
Yeah, right.
and that's where I think and I think it's a way of mediums to justify where they think some of them are complete charlatans, but I talked to Ben. We talked to Ben Radford about this, and Ben has really studied the paranormal, and he's fantastic. He's always the guy on the shows when you watch CNN or whatever, where they have a skeptic come on, and he's really studied this stuff. And he said psychics and mediums, they believe they're helping you. Like they believe, they justify it as, I am helping you. Okay? Like when I saw one where a psychic tells a family that their child has psychic abilities and could see dead people, I lost my shit. I was like, why would you tell a child something so fucking idiotic? The kid's going to have a rough life thinking he could see dead people now. Because, and the parents were all proud, my son's got a gift,
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going, holy fuck, are you out of your mind? But they justify, these psychics sit there and they hey, something creepy. Have you ever done this experiment with somebody where, just say we didn't know somebody, and me and you are headed to a certain place we know all the time, and I say to you, we pick up Mark. Mark has no idea where we're going. I go, hey, this is the place where the 6 children were slaughtered. And me and you are in on the joke, but Mark just kind of, oh, really? Yeah, this place is really a dark place. Now, we can go there, and you could see that Mark is uncomfortable and will treat the place a little differently.
The reverence, yeah.
Yeah, because we've just put it in his head. And the place could be brand new, no one's ever died there. But Mark will have that feeling of something bad took place here, and there's evil spirits. There's something bad here, and his behavior will be different because we changed it.
Yeah. So when you become interested in this and you think that you've gotten this enlightenment, you call it an awakening, you imagine you've seen the light and so forth, and then you become a crusader for the truth.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And it turns out that the truth in this case is your truth. And I'm guilty of this myself. I remember saying these things. I remember, doing these kinds of practices where I can feel the energies that I'm conjuring, and it seems so completely real to me that I can demonstrate this to other people and convince them that they can also feel these same things. Same thing happens when you're doing like psychic readings or aura readings and things of that sort.
Right.
So you start advocating for the truth, except that you're only arguing for your truth, and you think you have this new awakening, this enhanced perception that you know things, the unknown, right?
Right.
And so I've decided, since everybody has mutually exclusive, conflicting truths, I realize what the term truth really means. When you look it up in a dictionary, and I always have to define my terms, when you look it up in a dictionary, truth is that which is concordant with reality. That means that truth is not, the reality is not truth. It's just whatever is concordant with reality is truth. So that means statements about reality, and they're only truth if they're true. So the way I interpret truth now is not just a thing that's true whether we admit that it's true or whether we know that it's true, but it's a thing that we can show to be true.
Right.
And I won't use the word truth in any other application. So when people start arguing about their spiritual truth, I have to pull them into my interpretation of it. No, you don't have truth until you can show that you've got the goods.
Right.
As Matt Dillahunty once said, show me there's a there.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what that's called?
That just hurt my brain.
That's called the Delahuntee Dodge. Every time I hear that, I want to slap the stupid out of his mouth. The Delahuntee Dodge.
Who says that?
Fucking Matt Slick.
Oh, he's
just this,
brilliant.
he comes up with just these idiotic replies that just,
for Christ's sake.
there isn't enough aspirin in the fucking planet to deal with him sometimes. But so what do you think people see when they see a Bigfoot? I think what people see is a bear standing on its feet, and your brain tells you you've never seen this before, and you think, when you walk away from something, you just sit there and say, that was abnormal, and I didn't see a bear, I saw this Bigfoot walking around.
I don't think it's got all of that to it. I don't think that most of the people who see Bigfoot are even looking at bears, because bears would be a real situation. A lot of people who think they've seen Bigfoot have really seen bears, but we've never heard from those people because they were eaten.
Right.
What most people see when they think they see Bigfoot isn't even other people, although that often happens. People very often in the woods at night will see somebody walking by, in the distance, and people are noisy. We don't walk through the forest efficiently at all.
Right.
We make a heck of a lot of noise, and when there are places when the light will only show a vague form, or you can see that you're walking upright 2 legs, that kind of thing.
Right.
And people out in the forest will just freak out and just assume that's a Sasquatch, when, of course, we live in a planet with 7 billion fucking people, so they're everywhere. You should expect that that's going to be a person wandering around in the woods. Why would a person be out in the woods? Well, why are you out in the woods, asshole? There's lots of people out there. You don't need to have an explanation for that in order to claim that that the obvious is unexplained somehow.
Yeah.
But a lot of people when they're saying that they see Bigfoot, they don't even see people moving. They're looking at trees.
Sure.
Yeah, and they see images. I've seen footage where a guy thought he saw a Bigfoot, and all it was really the bark of the tree. And if you stop the footage, you can draw, we're pattern-seeking mammals, so you can see a face in the tree, and all it is just the way the bark was made. The way the bark formed on this tree. It kind of looked like a monkey's face. It's like looking up at a cloud going, hey, look, that looks like a fucking eagle or whatever,
Well, sure. Yeah. Hey, Aaron.
Yeah.
Did you ever look at hypnotism at all when you were looking into the paranormal or the cryptozoology?
I did. It was just hypnotism was one of the few things that didn't resonate with me, because the way that it was explained to me was much like anything else paranormal that you do. The hypnotist that was working on me said that I can't be resistant. I can't treat it like it's a scientific experiment. I have to go with the flow, and then the effect of the hypnotism doesn't begin to take over until you start being compliant with it.
Yes.
So you have to act along, and then it builds. Well, that's true of every religious thing you do.
Sure.
Yeah.
I did that at one point and actually thought that I was being hypnotized because I was playing along the way I was instructed to. Now, mind you, the only defense I have in this is that I was only a teenager at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And if you go back, 20, 30 years in my life, I was a completely different person.
Right.
So.
No, I've gone to a hypnotist, and fucking cost me a lot. But at the end of the session, he said, you're one of the guys. He kind of explained it to me this way. He goes, I just kept saying, I'm not hypnotized. And he goes, I know. And he goes, why I'm not hypnotized is because I don't want to be hypnotized. But I kept telling, every time the guy tried to hypnotize me, I kept thinking, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
I just kept saying, I can't, and I see people, we've all been to those shows where a guy will hypnotize the crowd goes up, and people start acting like jackasses.
Yeah.
Well, to me, people know what they're doing. It's just, these people know what they're doing. It's just it's kind of like this excuse that I'm hypnotized, so I could act like an idiot.
So do you think then that the people that go for quitting smoking or for pain or whatever, do you think it's just a placebo effect?
Are you talking about me?
Yeah, sure.
Mark doesn't give a shit what I have to
No,
say.
I hear
So
his
don't
crap
worry
all the time.
about me.
Well, I'm thinking about the whole breadth of hypnotism. Yes, people use it to quit smoking, just like they use "I found Jesus." I used to be a crack addict. I used to
Yes.
be,
Okay.
you know, I used to be a thug or a whore or whatever these, you know, the horrible past that these people will conjure up, you know, for how they used to be and how their religion saved them from that. Well, hypnotism can also save you in the same way because it is in effect the same thing.
Okay.
It's taking the power that is within you and finding some other source so that you can pretend to have amplified that. But
Right.
what I was saying about the culture that we grow up in encouraging this kind of thing, there's no truth to hypnotism at all. There's no actual thing. It doesn't really exist.
Right.
Okay.
But we've all seen that police use hypnotists.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right, so they'll have investigations, criminal investigations, that have hired a damn hypnotist, and
Yeah.
nobody knows, or nobody knew at that time, that there's nothing really real there.
Well, I hate it when they, you know, will, and I talked to Ben about this, where they'll use a psychic to try and find a lost child.
That's discouraging.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and let's think about that. Let's think about using these psychics and everything. You must think that, you know, like the common colloquialism is that even a broken watch is right twice a day, right?
Sure.
So how often are the psychics correct? Well, 0%.
right.
Yeah.
Their percent of accuracy is far less than random luck.
Well, not only that, if they do find the child or anything, they'll go, you know, they could say, you know, they were on land close to water, and it's like, okay, we found it on land, and water was 5 miles away. Did you see? They were right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Wait,
like,
you could use a justification for that, like what you're talking about, but I don't know of any instance like that. I only know of 100% absolute failure.
no, I know, but they could totally, a psychic can turn around and say, yeah, but you see, we were right. Like the ocean was only 120 miles away, so it was close to water.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about now, not just faith healers, because that's too easy a target. How about the traveling exorcists?
Oh.
Oh, that guy. What's
What?
that guy's
He's got
name?
his daughter's in on it too.
Yeah.
What's his name? I don't.
He's got these really good-looking women, and you ever see the guys that are possessed? I think it's their way to get close to these women.
Wow, they're pretty nice looking.
Well, yeah. Well, like, you know, they'll
Well, now
hold
I'm
you.
going to have to look this up because I wasn't aware.
Oh God.
Yeah,
What you're talking about.
he'll have this
Vito's-
guy will have these psychics, and he goes around and he charges a pretty penny.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so and he makes sure to get the devil out of you. He believes that you know and he has these beautiful women
Yeah, Vito's
that
got a
travel
demon in his pants right now.
Yeah, that travel with him. And what happens? These guys that think they're possessed, the women will hold you and rub your back, and we'll get this out of you. And here's a guy that
That's not going to get the demon out of you. That's going to get the demon rising.
Right,
yeah,
there you
exactly. And I think it's a way of like attention. I get attention. Look, everyone is around me. Like there'll be 50 people in the room watching you. Yeah. And I mean, people say, like, if you watch The Exorcist and you watch these people that are possessed, you just go, wait a minute, this girl's head spins in The Exorcist, and this guy's making stupid animal noises. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, they're just...
And that's the luxury package, though, because if he brings his daughter and himself, or his daughters and himself to the show...
Oh, this guy makes money.
You're going to pay extra, but he'll also do it over Skype.
Yeah, he can do it over Skype. Did you know that?
Yeah, I had heard of that.
But
I
God!
understand what you're talking about when the girl's head spins all the way around in the movie, and this other guy's only making animal noises. Come on, let me see you cough up 30 liters of pea soup.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then fire it across the room.
Yeah, pick up. Yeah, I want it. Like they have superhuman strength, and these guys are being held down by voluptuous women.
Yeah,
you know, like, give me a break.
Yeah,
I just want.
It's all because of what you want to believe.
It's. I think it's the attention thing. I think it's the whole. I'm getting attention here. I've got.
What I experienced on my own was not that I did with you guys. I'm doing this privately. I was never about the attention from other people. Although when I did the neo-pagan thing, there was a point when, yeah, I admit it was a good way to pick up girls, especially in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
But what the failure of all of the things that I believed in was that at the core, while it was fun to believe certain things, and I remember thinking that, this was fun to think about, Bigfoot and extraterrestrials and the Nazca lines in South America and, time travelers and all of this that I believed in, it was more important that I understand things.
Right.
So the frustration for me was like looking up all of these things. Like my family members gave me the Eric von Daniken books, endorsing that these things are true, right?
Yeah.
So I have every authority. The TV, the newspaper. By the way, the newspaper we most often read was the Weekly World News. Just to give you an idea how backward all of this was, but it was important to me to understand. And whenever I would try to confirm, when I get conflicting stories, for example, as you often do, especially when you start getting into spiritual things, and you think that there should be some kind of consistency here, and there should be some kind of a mechanism here.
Yeah.
When you try to correlate things to see what actually makes sense, like especially when we're talking about astral projection, there's got to be a means the means by which that works, and there should be some kind of consistency, such that some people will talk about this membrane that comes out of your back that attaches to your material body when you leave your physical body, your astral body leaves the physical form, and then other people would describe something that is completely different, where they like turn into dragons and go off into a dream world. Well, no, you are actually dreaming. That's not astral projection. You're just dreaming.
Right.
Right.
And trying to understand this and trying to get sources to correlate and confirm what the other things are, that I found no consistency at all. Everything is a contradiction.
Yeah.
And if you go to scientific sources, the scientific sources don't mention anything about it ever.
Sure. Well,
And so I remember there was a book of lists that came out in the late 70s, early 80s, and that was a popular compilation. You have 3 big volumes of lots of really interesting historical stuff, but a lot of mixed into that was ghost sightings and paranormal events and people who went to sleep in one place and woke up in another country on the other side of the world, accidentally having, transversed by supernatural means, and all of this was mixed in with the intelligent, verifiable stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were always anal probed.
Yeah.
It was always like
That's
it was like
I was
like-
going to say when
we've
When
there's-
I look at the scientific sources, there's nothing about it. When I look at actual historical sources, there's nothing about it. And so I realized, looking at the peer-reviewed stuff, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to back this up. And so I have to look at these flightier sources that will, reaffirm what it is that I
Sure.
want to believe. And so I thought, okay, I'll just read the things that reaffirm what I want to believe.
Well, and even when there is consistencies, like when you hear people say, "Oh, I was abducted by aliens," they will generally have similar stories. The aliens are, gray. They got big heads, black eyes. Somebody shoved something up my ass. But they've heard that before at this point.
Yeah.
Everybody's heard that story.
And this is why the abduction stories in the United States match each other, but the abduction stories in Europe don't, and
Yeah.
they have a different trend in the European stories of that kind. But this is an important point when I said that I came to this point where I said I'll just read the stories read the sources that back up what I want to believe. And I realized as soon as I said that, the instant that I said that in my mind, I realized how dishonest that was.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that it doesn't matter how much I want to believe something if it's not even probably true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It has to at least be probably true, not possibly true. Possibly true is not good enough. It has to be probably true
Right.
before I can believe it.
My alien abductors look like truckers.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like a 401.
Yeah,
highway
it was kind
situation.
of like to this day, every time I hear an 18-wheeler, my buttocks just clench.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, are they 18-wheelers in Canada? Because I was just there, and I remember seeing a lot more tires on these things than we have in the States.
Yeah, we got 18, 22-wheelers.
Yeah, it's a
We always
mixed
try and
bag.
show off. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Has this ever, when you were talking about going to the woods, has this ever happened to you guys where you go looking for wood for the fire, you get lost looking for wood?
No, because as I said, people are noisy, and if you're not camping alone, then you're going to be able to find the rest of your camp.
Sure.
I've done that where I've gone looking for firewood and I've ended up getting lost looking in the woods.
You were high as fuck.
Yeah. That honestly, do you find some nice mushrooms or well, don't pick up unless you don't know, there can be incredibly poisonous mushrooms. Sick. So just be careful.
The rule that I have is I don't eat mushrooms unless it appears on my food.
Okay.
Yeah, that or I know the guy.
If they bring me a plate and the mushrooms are already on top of food on the plate, then it's okay to eat.
Where was the best beer? You were all over the place. Where was the best beer, Aaron?
Oh, Australia.
Really?
I like dark beer.
Okay.
And if for whatever reason it's hard to find decent stouts or porters. Even in Europe, I was having a hard time finding decent stouts or porters. But when I was in Australia, they have several different brands that none of which are available in the States.
Oh.
Like Cooper's and White Rabbit and I can't remember now because it's been a year since I was there.
And you know what? Do they drink Foster's there, or do they drink? No. See,
I saw exactly 3 cans of Foster's.
Yeah. See, and
I went in this one. I forget what they call it. They don't call it liquor store. They don't call it beer store. They call it something else, like a shop or something. I can't remember what the word is. But anyway, when I went into one of these things, and I walked into the freezer, the cooler in the back, because I was looking for something that wasn't in the window.
Yeah.
So I was just going to go in the cooler and grab it from the back end. And there were 3 cans of Foster's sitting all alone on the inside of the cooler against the back of the cooler, where no one would even pluck them. There was no display anywhere.
Right.
Those 3 cans could have been there for a year.
Yeah. See, and I found the same thing in Holland too. Not many people were drinking Heineken. Did you find that too, or you were there pretty recently too, right?
Well, yeah, I tend to see Heineken, but in places like in Poland and Germany.
Yeah.
It was a big deal there.
Yeah.
Although I've never been fond of Heineken.
No. Well, and Holland, when I was there, they were drinking Bavaria for the most part, which is kind of, but it's not.
My favorite brand, they don't have in the States anymore. And I was hoping that I would find it in Germany, but oddly enough, they didn't have it in any of the places that I went there either. It's Spaten, Franzis, Connerbrau, Dunkelweizen, Wiesbier.
Sure.
I had that. I got
say.
I got it cleaned up and everything. It's 2 shots and it's done.
Penicillin. Yeah.
When you think that people are, more skeptics? I don't think skeptics were atheists. This is what I wanted to bring up a couple nights ago at a hangout, and I don't think I got the point across. The correct way. I wanted to. Is there a correlation between the two where most atheists, I don't think, believe in Bigfoot or ghosts or paranormal stuff?
Before you generalize about the atheists, I know atheists who believe in those things.
Okay.
I know atheists who believe in spirits and who believe in extraterrestrials visiting the planet and all manner of woo.
Okay.
And homeopathy and herbalism and all of this kind of stuff. Just because you don't believe in a God doesn't mean that you don't believe in a God for the right reason.
Okay.
So if you are skeptical, and I know that there are people who identify as skeptics who are also religious, I think there's a contradiction there.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to be skeptical, you should be skeptical about anything, and anything that you have to believe on faith means that you are clearly not being skeptical. But if you are skeptical, analytical, a rationalist, as I like to put it, an epistivist, meaning you don't believe things on faith, right? Let's say that your mindset is that you want to understand.
Yeah.
If you want to understand, and here's, I have to give a better explanation of this, because what I see is at the extremes, we have 2 extremes where you have on one side people who just have a desperate need to believe. And they will believe even when they know it's not true. Even after you prove it's not true, they will still believe it anyway. I've had people admit this to me. But then on the other side, you have people that doesn't matter how much they want to believe something, they can't if they can't show that it's evidently supported.
Yeah, but don't you like that? I find that confusing. Where, like, I don't understand how, if you don't believe in a God, how can you believe in, like, what's a spirit then?
There are certain religions that don't have gods to them. Pantheism, Druidism, for example, the traditional method of Chinese ancestor worship. These don't necessarily have gods. Sometimes they'll have lesser deities, but in the examples that I'm talking about, they don't have a creator god. They don't have what would be recognized as a god at all. They just have, certain spirits or spiritual elements to them. And people will believe that this. So, like, look at Jedi, for example. There's a religion that has spirits and no God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that just blows my mind. I thought for sure atheists would have. See, when I became an atheist, to me, I dropped all belief in ghosts and Bigfoot, and
That's why I invented. A friend of mine actually invented the word epistivist, which is someone who doesn't believe anything on faith. That faith is the most dishonest position it is possible to have, and so any belief that requires faith should be rejected for that reason.
Right.
Now, as I said, on the one extreme, you have people that not only like to believe in these things, but will continue to believe even after they've seen that it's been proven wrong. And I've had people admit this to me. So it is a choice then. Where I said that I had gotten to this point where I said, okay, I'll just read the books that support my position. I'll just read the books that support what I already want to believe. I realized that was dishonest and that it was more important to find out what was really true. But I know that many other people have come to that same crossroads and have gone the other way.
Yeah.
That didn't decide that was dishonest. Or if it is dishonest, they don't care. Because here's another thing. When you have on the rationalist side, on the side of the people who want to understand, there's a much worse disdain for lies. Mm-hmm. Because lies will confuse understanding. So if understanding is important to you, then you're going to hate lies, and you also are not going to believe in a God. If all that matters to you is that you believe that you have this view of the world that you've created, maybe in your own mind, you don't care about the lies if they will help to reinforce that. It's okay to lie if you're lying for Jesus. Mm. And these people don't see any real problem with lying to other people, and they don't feel an offense at being lied to. Whereas the people on the rationalist side, the non-believer side, the people who want to understand, will feel outrage even when they see someone else being deceived.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel.
There's people, though, that will only lie, if you will, when it comes to faith, but they see lying as wrong in every other aspect of life.
That to me is the hardest. How can you're talking about God or in Jesus that never supposedly never lie?
Well, I know.
And then you're lying is just
okay. Here's another example. There was somebody that was on the Board of Education, or courting the Board of Education, trying to get them to teach the weaknesses of evolution. And in a public moderated debate, this guy admitted that he knew that there were transitional species in the fossil record, but he said he wanted to teach students there were none because he said it was important that they believe there are none.
Well, he needs to be fired.
Yeah.
Then that.
So he's admitting that it is okay to lie to students in order to control their belief.
Yeah, and that is, to me, the person needs to be fired. I mean, when you brought up the last talk that you had, I believe it was in London, you and your wife were talking about how your son was duped for how long was the teacher lying to him? Or like to your son, he was a phys ed teacher. He should have been fired for what he did.
Oh, I know the story you're talking about. No, that wasn't my son. That was somebody else. It was a concerned parent. A concerned parent had contacted me to say that there was this teacher. They teach high school class, or they teach college classes in high school to prepare you for college, or that you actually get college credit for high school classes. I think they call it an AP. I'm not sure what the program is called. But in some of these cases, they don't have college degreed teachers teaching these classes. And in this case, in West Texas, they had somebody that was just a coach.
Yeah, you can't.
And he's supposed to be teaching zoology. Oh. What the hell would a coach know about zoology? Right now, this was Richard Dawkins' field. zoology. Now, this is one class where evolution is absolutely necessary. There's no way you can teach this class without it.
No.
And so what this guy did instead was he wasted 6 weeks out of the semester having the kids do mock debates using the books of Ann Coulter.
Jeez.
Oh, man.
So this was obviously an outraged parent with good reason.
Of course.
Yeah, and I've got lots of other anecdotal examples about how people dodge when they're put in a position where, as teachers, they're required to teach evolution and have no understanding of it whatsoever, and they don't have they won't even use the proper materials for
And
it. They've got no concept. I would rather they not even try.
Yeah.
This is why my wife and I write a series of educational videos that are designed to teach that according to the next generation science standards, the national science standards, so that people can just plug in a video, play it for the class. It's a 10-minute thing, and it's not teaching all of evolution. These are just the various concepts, like endosymbiosis, mitosis, everything that the students are supposed to know.
Right.
But when you're getting into biology, evolution is actually a part of all of it, and a lot of teachers will ignore that or gloss over it, and we don't. Where lessons including or involving evolution are necessary, we will include them.
Well, yeah. Well, my son, how old is he now? 8? He,
How do I know that?
My son,
I
how
don't-
old is he?
I can't remember anymore. I don't. But he at school they'll play Bill Nye, because he'll come home and go, Dad, could I watch Bill Nye? And he doesn't know that the show, it was 10 years old, but Bill Nye still, simple thing, how things work and just trying. It's an introduction to a young person, and I think that's cool that they're showing that in school. But I always, it might be a little more the foundational falsehoods of creationism series that you do. I always thought, I brought this up on a discussion, and somebody kiboshed me on it, and I think it was you saying, no, they shouldn't teach that. And I was like, why? Why wouldn't they show the series as part of school curriculum? Why can't they show that? It's nothing. There's nothing bullshit about it. It's learning, right? You want to teach children. Don't teach them bullshit. I mean, if you have a religious class and it's a religious school, I get that, but you do need to know creation. You got to know how things, the foundation. You got to know how shit works, man.
Yeah. Now, if it weren't a science class and some other application, maybe you could do that. Like if you're going to teach critical thinking, for example,
right. Okay.
Because
Social
the
studies.
series you're talking about is counter apologetics.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's meant to be a rebuttal of religious claims. But if the religious claims are not scientific, then the rebuttal of the religious claims is not necessarily scientific either.
Right.
It doesn't have to be. Right? We can have a counter a philosophy. We can have counter politics, whatever. In either case, in a science class, the counter apologetics would not be appropriate. It would,
Right.
unless you want to treat the science itself as though it were counter apologetics, which I guess you could, because in many cases, teaching evolution properly would actually work as a counter apologetics argument.
Yeah.
But it needs to be structured as a science lesson.
Yeah.
Right.
In the interest of keeping it a pure science class.
Yeah, we don't have to tell people that your pastor is lying to you. That would be good to do, but I think it would be the high road not to, and simply give the lessons as they really are.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And I know that Red Dwarf is a show it's one of your favorite shows, right?
Yeah, Dave Lister is my favorite fictional character ever.
Yeah, he is funny as shit. He's on Coronation Street, which kind of is weird because I don't like Coronation Street, but my wife does. If a network were to come to you, a TV network, and say, AronRa, we would like to do a show, and it's a two-part question because I want you to do a show for adults. What kind of show would you do?
If a TV company came to me,
Like if NBC or a big network were to come and say, we need to do a show, and we want you to do a show, and they give you carte blanche to say, do the show the way you want it. How would you do? What kind of TV show would you do? Would it be comedy? Would it be like why it's a two-parter is because I want you to do a show, but I also want you to do a show for kids too. So if they said, okay, that one's for the adults, but we also would like you to do, a cartoon or a kids show for children. What would you do if they gave you the okay to do that?
If you're asking what kind of a show would I do if a TV company gave me the carte blanche, as you put it, to do that, I would like to do something on critical thinking, skeptical thinking, something along the lines of what Penn and Teller did for Bullshit.
Yes, yes, that would be, that is a fantastic show.
Just a series of showing different evangelical faith healers, people who say that they are Jesus. I just recently interviewed a guy named Sunal Edamarku in Finland, who's a refugee from India. And what he was doing in India was he was going from village to village, disproving the holy men and showing the people, the common people, how these guys were doing their tricks.
Yes.
Which, of course, is robbing all of these holy rollers of their livelihood, in a sense. And he had to go into hiding when he exposed both of the miracles that were claimed for the sanctification of Mother Teresa, and when he disproved the miracle of a crying statue, and there were thousands of people that were coming to this church to lick up the water from this statue, and the water was coming out from underneath the toes of the statue. I don't know why they call it a crying statue, but so Sanal goes in and he investigates, and he discovers that the reason why is it's condensation coming up from the bottom of the statue from a clogged toilet.
Oh my God.
Let me lick those feet. Yeah, that is
water.
Yeah, I know who you're
doing a show like that. I mean, so Sanal also, when he was on a live TV show in India where he was sitting opposed to a tantric magician who made the claim that he had the ability to just to utter an incantation that would kill a man.
Right.
And so he's bragging about that. And Sanal just piped up and said, "Okay, do it then. We're on live TV. Show it."
Yeah. Very brave man. Was he was also the guy where would he not go to village and pretend he was he would dress up like a shaman and do all these amazing tricks and freak out the crowd, freak out the kids, and then slowly remove his makeup to show that it was all bullshit.
That sounds right, but I don't know if it was Sanal that was doing that. The funny thing is in this interview, he was talking about things, and I remember that I had seen that, because I used to watch a lot of this stuff on the Traveling Skeptics years ago. And so it was surprising that I had actually seen him, or at least heard of him, 3 different times or 3 different events, without realizing they were all for the same guy.
Yeah, you need to go to a network and propose something like that, because I think they would totally enjoy that.
What we have instead is where we have these mystery shows where you have the number 1 from Star Trek Next Generation, and he gives a ridiculous scenario of something that's completely impossible, and then asks, "Is it possible?"
Yeah. That's what Shatner. Yeah, Shatner does that too.
Is it possible? And then in the background, you got some drunken dude yelling out, "Fuck no!"
No, it's not. No, I'm drunk and I know that's not possible.
Get him out of here! Get him out of here! And for kids, how would you, if they said, we would love you to do a kids show, an introduction to evolution. How would you do a kids show to introduce children that you know what, guys, you're stardust, you're important, you're not just because don't.
You mentioned Bill Nye a little while ago, and he had a great formula for doing a kids show. There was another kids show once upon a time that was like a children's variety show back in the late 80s. It was, and I thought, okay, now the children's variety show, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was based out of Canada.
Was it a guy dressed as a rat?
There was no adults in it. It was an all-child cast.
All child cast. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, that was the thing about the show, and I wish I could remember what the name of the show was.
I got nothing.
But it was like it was a variety show with various different skits and everything, and the way that it sold it was all kids doing it.
You can't do that on television.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the name of it. Because the only character's name I could remember was Moose.
Right.
And I remember that Amanda Bynes, I think, came from that show.
Okay. Yeah. And if you said
But
I
anyway,
don't know, you got.
If you did a Bill Nye, if you did a science show, something that has the versatility to be different types of shows and different episodes, and just have it with an all-kid cast, I think that would sell very well.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that is great. I remember you talking about Dan Barker, and if people don't know Dan, I was a big fan of Dan Barker, and Dan was the guy. If you ever, he does look like an old prospector, and he came out with, he's a paleontologist, he's the guy that wrote the book about dinosaurs being warm-blooded, not cold-blooded.
Oh, no, that's not Dan Barker. That's Robert. Dan Barker is a different person. I know him. You're talking about Robert T. Bakker.
That's it. I'm sorry.
Not Barker. Bakker. Bakkar.
Bakker. That's it. Him. He wrote these amazing the evolution. I forget what it was called, but he had I can't even remember the fucking guy's name properly. That was good. But he came up with the conclusion that dinosaurs were warm-blooded and blah blah blah. Is he the same guy that? Are we talking about the same man that thought he's a pastor and he believes that dinosaurs and man live together or something? Like,
no, he doesn't believe the dinosaurs and man live together. However, Robert T. Bakker is a Pentecostal preacher.
How?
Yeah.
His
description was that if you're reading the Bible literally, then you're missing the point of the message. That you're not getting the message of the Bible. And this was supposed to be detailed in a book that I don't know if he ever finished it, called Bones, Bibles, and Creation. And I had the opportunity to talk to him, and I had him act as a moderator in the debate that I mentioned before, where this other guy mentioned about knowing about transitional species. Robert T. Bakker was one of the moderators of that debate, and the sad thing was that when I invited him, I did so out of respect for his scholarship and everything, and for the progress he had made, not just as an advisor on the original Jurassic Park movie, but also in what he had done with Ostrom before, on establishing that dinosaurs were so very avian and were warm-blooded and had feathers and all of this. I liked the challenges that he was putting forth, and I liked the way that he was doing it. I liked the way he was representing and teaching. And it was only after I started investigating him that I found out that he was this Pentecostal preacher, and I didn't know how he reconciled that. But we didn't talk a lot about his religion when I asked him to do this thing, because I thought that he was going to put that aside and do the factual education is more important, right? Well, no, it turned out not to be. So we got into the debate, and instead of moderating the debate, he chose to use that as his soapbox for railing his disdain against atheists. And
man!
And he's there at my invitation.
What a dick!
Yeah, so I was a little bit upset over that.
Yeah,
I would have thought that no, and this way he wasn't the only one to do that. There was another moderator that did the same thing, who actually wanted the creationists to win the debate, and he was even trying to help them to do that, even though he also was there at my request. And because of my respect for his work, which he couldn't possibly care less about, and he said that. He didn't care that I respected his work. He just didn't want to see an atheist win the debate.
Jeez.
Because he hates atheists more than he hates children being lied to in schools.
Sure.
So I was very disappointed with the way that debate worked out.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that, and I would have.
Not a very Christian move.
No, not only that, but I would have.
Why isn't it?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, all right.
I would have thought he would have put it aside, like put religion aside and talk sense, and it was disheartening because I really enjoyed seeing him, and I thought he it's like an astronaut saying, "I hate wearing the spacesuit." It's like doing my work in space, and I don't wear a spacesuit.
Yeah.
That's pretty much. I don't know. It's very weird to be a Pentecostal preacher and to be a.
Has anybody ever heard him reconcile the two things? Like,
No.
Well, yeah, I mean, lots of people do. I mean, Francis Collins, right, the director of the Human Genome Project, he was also a Christian, and he became a Christian, or at least a strong Christian late in life, for reasons that make no sense to anybody else. He's happened to see a waterfall split three ways, and that somehow convinced him the Trinity was true, which convinced him the Bible was true, even though he made public statements that the evidence shows that the humanity was in a genetic bottleneck of perhaps 10,000 people, and never, ever, possibly at a point where there was an Adam and Eve. He says that an Adam and Eve story is not possibly literally true, and Robert T. Bacher says much the same thing. But if you want to talk about the way that people reconcile their beliefs, look at Kenneth Miller. He's literally a textbook author in biology, one of the leading ones, and he was the star witness in Kitzmiller versus Dover. He's one of the best evolutionists there is. However, he describes himself as a traditional Catholic. How that makes sense to anybody, I don't understand.
Yeah, that's where I just go, how? It's just, to me.
Catholics in particular are kind of famous for picking and choosing and conceding points here and there, and some say this and some say that. Some tell you can wear a rubber and some tell you can't. And even the Pope right now,
if I was
say one thing and then the cardinals will go, no, he didn't mean it this way.
Oh, he's going to get you for this one. He's going to get you.
Exactly.
Well, how about you? So you're saying that the Pope Francis recently said twice. In fact, he said that atheists can get into heaven.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
But then
that
one of the
pissed
cardinals
off.
will go, yeah, but what he meant to say was that you're fucking doomed. And
yes, His Infallible Eminence misspoke.
What's the best?
He got into the sacrificial wine. He was feeling, feeling charitable.
Yeah, the best is when you have a guy like that. When he's the guy that he talks to God, and whatever he says, that he was just talking to God. He goes in the little room, he talks to him, he comes out, and he tells you what he says.
Yeah.
If you picked a fucking nut job to go in there, every time they come out and say something, you've got to kind of bite your teeth and go, oh, God, why did we elect him? Oh, what did he say now? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. So you talk about shoot yourself in the foot. Like, it's like instead of, he of course he doesn't talk to fucking God or anything. He just whatever tickles him that day. He's like, what? This is what the God said. Atheists are allowed in heaven, and the planet, half the planet went, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what happens. You just remember for the longest time that if you weren't baptized, your baby would be in hell.
Sure.
So you had women, their child died at birth, absolutely for the longest time, thinking that their children were in hell.
Yeah.
The worst place, just hell. Could you imagine a baby? So they picture that in their head, and then of course the Pope says, the Pope would say, you know what? I talked to God about it. Let's let it go. They're in heaven. They're in heaven. Don't worry about it. They're in heaven. The lesbians, they're in heaven too. Yeah. Some of them. The ones with the sideburns, not so much.
No.
But that just shows you that it is made up.
Yeah.
When you have one guy, you know what I mean, tell you that this is the way it is.
If it's real, then fundamental is the only way to be. If it's a real thing, then man, you better fucking stick to the books. You better not stray in any way.
Well,
so once you do, what's the point?
And if that were the case, there would be only one book.
Yeah.
There'd be only one interpretation of that book.
Yeah, we wouldn't have 15,000 denominations, different Pentecostal, Baptist,
People's Friend of Judea.
Yeah, all.
Shooting
Yeah.
at people's front,
Yeah.
splitters.
Yeah, the water buffalo gang.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all. That's the thing that I always thought was, if the book was so right, everybody, it should be like a car manual. Everybody should get the same thing out of their
Right.
car manual and understand it to be the same. Not, this is what this means. This is what this means when Jesus went to the river. This is what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
And I just find that dishonest. Like, no, we should not be thinking 15 different things. What, there should just be one logical thing. Like if he went down and said everybody has to wear orange underwear from now on, everyone wears orange underwear. You can't have one guy yell out, but he really meant pink.
Yeah.
It can't. You can't. It's got to be what he
But
says.
that's exactly what the Bible is. I mean, it's like, okay, what did Jesus ever write himself?
Nothing.
So everything is his underlings saying what he said.
Right.
Well, he didn't really write anything. He died, and then 40 to 80 years later.
If he ever lived at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And-
In either case, it doesn't really matter whether a Jesus existed or not. What we have are not the words of that Jesus. What we have are the words of people making shit up.
Right. And this is what I guarantee you, and people say, I get a lot of, hey, if I had a time machine, this is what I do. I guarantee you, if we all got into a TARDIS and went back to when Jesus walked the earth, if there was a Jesus, if he were alive today and we were to show him, hey, look, they wrote a book about you, he would totally, he would be like Life of Brian, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like, really? They bought this shit?
That to me seems like it's probably the most accurate.
Yeah, it would be like going to Vincent van Gogh, showing up when he's in the field drawing stuff and going, Vincent, people are going to think you were one of the greatest artists of our time. And he'll go, fuck off.
First he'd go, what?
He goes, who would buy this shit? And I go, Vincent, they have a whole catalog of your stuff. Your painting is worth $58 million. And he'd go, great, pay me now. I starved to death. I fucking starved to death.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to be famous when I die?
Yeah.
Fuck you, pay me now.
I always
And
like,
the thing about the Jesus thing is let's imagine for a moment that there was a historical Jesus, and my thought is that if we were to find a historical Jesus or something that might qualify as one, that it wouldn't be. We want to find the grain of truth at the heart of the story, and I think that is the best we could possibly hope for, is a grain, but that all of the other details are going to be wrong. So that if you were to find a Jesus, you wouldn't recognize him as Jesus, and if you were to recount the stories about Jesus to that guy, he damn sure wouldn't recognize himself as Jesus.
Right. Like we show him the blonde hair, the blue eyes, and you'd go, first of all, I'm 4'2".
right.
Okay. I've got brown eyes. I've got olive skin. I'm not 6'1".
I always liked the bit about him being alone in the garden praying, and that's all written down.
You know what would freak him out?
What I love about that is the fact that it's an argument by the Trinitarians, right? That he is God. He is man. He's God in the flesh.
Right.
So he is Jehovah. Just
Yes.
a physical incarnation. Well, if that's the case, then why is he sitting there, saying, "Take this cup away from me, not because I will it, but because you will it"?
Right.
How the hell is that possible if they're the same person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just before he dies, why have you forsaken me? Well, don't you fucking know already, dumbass?
Well, you know what you do? You freak him out. Just in the beginning, like he's all happy about it, and go, hey, I hate to break it to you, but check out the last page. And I guarantee you, Jesus will go. He'll
like a
go.
Game of Thrones
You know what?
situation.
I'm not coming back till I could play the fucking piano.
Yeah.
Okay. There is no way you guys are getting me on that cross. Like we would have to get him on the cross. We would sit there and go, listen, you're gonna fuck everything up. We should never have come back and told you this.
If you can do
Now,
miracles,
if it was the Bible was going to be chronicled properly, then when Jesus says to his disciples that he's going to come back before, that not one of them standing here with me right now will even taste of death before I return on the right hand of God. Right?
Right.
Can we get an expiration date on that?
Yeah. 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 And
Because for some reason, every one of those disciples is dead now, and it's 1900 years after the last one croaked,
Right.
and we're still waiting. So people need a more hard line that, hey, he ain't coming.
Yeah. I would believe it more if we went back and he's like, I got to go back on the cross because, you know, they got to follow me and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to ruin the world. But a new passage shows up where, and Jesus puncheth Judith in the fucking moutheth, very hardeth, breaking his jaw in 3 places.
Yay, though.
Yeah.
He
Yay,
spoke to Judas
the
and
Lord.
said, Judas, you
Yeah,
really
as if
fucked me
any
over
of
there.
that made any sense at all.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it be great to say that there is a historical Jesus and you got your time machine, you get to go talk to Jesus, you go like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
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 Why would the only reason that you can forgive people for doing what they should have been, what you should have been proud of them for doing, and the only before you can forgive them, they have to do something unforgivable first? What? Why? Why can't you just forgive people, especially since we didn't do anything wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're going to judge us because we didn't know the difference between right and wrong? Well, how could you? We didn't know the difference between right and wrong. So
Yeah.
how could you judge us?
I guarantee you, I got this funny thing that if we go back, we knock on the door and Mary would answer, topless, of course, and I'd go, "Where's Jesus?" And she'd be, "He's in the back playing with the marbles." You know, like he's just this grown man playing with fucking marbles, and there he is. Just, you know, we're gonna follow this shit.
Nice.
You know, this is why, to me, when Hitchens said religion is poison, it is. You know, we could make fun of it all we want, and I'm sure we're gonna offend people, but deal with it. Be a grown up. Look at it. Really look at it. Look at what's out there. You know, what I love about what Aaron does is he takes the facts and he crunches them down and he tells it the way it is. And it's important. Instead of being fed bullshit, open up your eyes. It's grown-up time where there's no more, childish. People believe too much bullshit these days. We fight too much. We our God is better than your God. Those days are over. If we want to grow as a species, you gotta put away a 2,000-year-old book, put it to bed, grow up,
All the magical things.
go to a fucking library, get a new book, read something else, better yourself. All that book does is make you judge others. That's all it does. Puts people down, judge
It allows
others.
you to pretend that you'll live forever and that
Right.
you'll have special powers. And here's the big thing. With the way that Christianity is practiced in the United States, Christianity is all about denying responsibility. You don't have to be responsible for anything you do because you can you don't have to be responsible or prosecuted for molesting your baby sisters because you can just pretend or make a public announcement that Jesus has forgiven you, and then you don't have to serve any jail time.
Well, that's good.
You know, you can be rest assured that God hates everybody you hate for exactly the same reasons as you hate them, and every criminal thing you ever do, even if you're convicted and incarcerated and killed in a capital punishment state, you will never have that sense that you're actually guilty because God has vindicated everything that you've ever done.
Sure.
God understands why you did that. You're going on to a better place after they kill you, which is one of the reasons that capital punishment in the Bible Belt is kind of pointless. These people think they're escaping punishment that
Sure.
way.
Yeah.
And the other thing, you don't have to worry about what we do to the environment either. It doesn't matter that we've used up all the resources. It doesn't matter that you dominate and subdue and multiply and all of this, like the way the Bible says, even though we're already 7 billion people and we can't feed everybody, because we can just pretend that Jesus is coming back any day anyway and just going to destroy it all, so it doesn't matter what we do. So you can live like there's no tomorrow because there literally isn't.
I've said it before. One of the scariest things I've ever seen on the news is George Bush's prayer meetings at the White House. That scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But no politician, that's the problem, though. If you had an atheist politician, nobody would vote for him.
Well,
That's the problem.
I know.
Like that, to me, it's like if you watch Obama's speech, or like the God Bless America, and like that kind of...
And
If he said, I don't believe in God, he would be out of the White House before. Like Bill Clinton could screw a chick in the White House and, he would be, they were trying to impeach him. But he would have gotten more trouble if he said, by the way, there's no God, deal with it. People would have asked him his own party would ask him to step down.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that the problem is necessarily religion. I think the reason that I cite the word pistivus is because I think that the problem is faith.
Right.
And the faith is contrary to, or is counter to or contrasted against reason, and that reason should be the people who want to understand, and generally, if you show somebody who's based on reason, if you show them evidence that they're wrong, they have no choice but to accept that they are at least probably wrong. Whereas the faith-based believer can reject anything you show them and believe what they know isn't true. It's what Mark Twain and Friedrich Nietzsche, is my favorite quote from philosophers. These two contemporaries both got faith right when Mark Twain said that faith is believing what you know ain't so. And Friedrich Nietzsche said that faith is not wanting to know what is true.
Right.
Yeah.
If you had a superpower, any superpower, what superpower would that be?
Well, it's like you mentioned at the beginning of the show about time travel. I would love to be able to do time, and not necessarily to see where the future is going. I want to explore picture postcard images of the past.
Right.
Because it's frustrating to me the things that we can find from fossils, what fossils can't tell us.
Right. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So I want to know what the courtship rituals were for dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are very close to birds. They must have had these mating dances, these weird calls that they would do.
Yeah.
Things of that sort. I want to know what it would be like to walk on a Permian beach, for example.
Sure.
From a safe distance.
You want to come back and go, I just watched 2 Tyrannosaurus Rex fuck.
Yeah, right.
And it was awful.
Don't get too close.
Well,
I had some other ideas too. If you talk about environmentalism and you have the capacity for time travel, assuming that you create a new shard of time so that when you go back in time you don't screw everything up, I think it would be great to create a portal where you can go back in time and just build a new community in the Cretaceous somewhere.
I think I'd go back and any time religion was brought up, I'd destroy it.
Just slap the shit.
Yeah, I would just say the guy that found the scrolls, just burn them, please. Just
Like I said, the core of that problem is whether you want to understand or whether you want to make believe.
Right.
That's really the choice.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time, AronRa. I really appreciate it. I know you're super busy. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and we hope to do this again with you really soon. I'm glad I can make it to this show. It's been great. We really appreciate it. It's been the Wrecking Crew Comedy Podcast with AronRa. I'm Mark Arts.
I'm Vito D'Amico.
Thanks for joining
us. And I'm AronRa.
Thanks to everybody for joining us.
Thank you, Aaron.